Hi everyone, hi gamers, hi chat. Today is a bit of a different stream, and I don't actually have the I don't have the setup to do this, but you know what? We'll figure it out as we go along the way, I guess. You know what? My channel is not that significant that I need to wait for people to come, so I guess I'll just go into it. So this is the official national security strategy of the United States of America. This is published November 2025, so just a few days ago. And this is from the official White House. Notice that. This is from the official White House. I've read it, and it's basically just the US finally said the quiet part out loud, where they want to rule the world, where they want to be the world hegemony. And so far, the media coverage of it is very lacking. The European one is laughably funny, I guess, because in it they only cry about. Wait, let me see if I can pull it out. What is the name of Monroe Doctrine? European Monroe Doctrine. So the Monroe Doctrine is, which will be mentioned in this article, in this document, not article. Is a US colonialism project that they did outside of the British Empire. So this is one of the first time where US wanted to get out of the shadow of their father, so to say. And the Monroe Project is their official naming of what they did at that time. Wait, maybe I should have coffee shops on. Let's try that. Okay. Okay, so this is the European news report of this, which is they just cry about the strategy mentioning Monroe Doctrine, basically because the Monroe Doctrine in the past is a US attempt at their own colonization projects. So it's US colonization project that for the first time ever at that time, I think, does not benefit European country, does not benefit Europe, even though at that time America is also part of Europe. So that's what they're crying about. Meanwhile, the document had so much more than that. It's actually wild how much they admit in this document. So it's just, as I mentioned, it's US saying the quiet part out loud. Let's just start, I guess. So this is from the White House. This is from, I think, Trump, yeah. Either Trump or his speechwriter or something. His ghostwriter. My fellow Americans, over the past 9 months, my fellow Americans, over the past 9 months, we have brought our nation and the world back from the brink of catastrophe and disaster. What? No. The US only got worse after Trump got into power. I think because a lot of the money that he promised that will go into the economy of the US instead goes to other projects that benefit him and his friends. One of them is him sending billions to Argentina. Which is also part of this document. This one. Self-sure. I think because US actually sent more than 20 billion at the end result. So no, already in the first sentence, they already lied about what they're doing. After 4 years of weakness, that is true. Extremism and delivery failure, that is also true because Biden's administration is really bad. My decision move with urgency and historic speed to restore America's strength at home and abroad and bring peace and stability to our world. Also no, that's not true. One of the document that will, I'll show you part of the document that will be useful for this part. So this is the US wanted to put their military base on Danish territory and they want to take over Greenland for world peace. So, bring peace and stability to our world is, yeah, a bit of a moronic statement. No administration in history has achieved so dramatic a turnaround in so short time. Not really, it's just from Biden to Trump, it's just from worse to even worse. Starting on my first day in office, we restored sovereign borders of the United States and deployed the US military to stop the invasion of our country. There's no such thing. We got radical gender ideology and woke lunacy out of our armed forces and began strengthening our military with $1 trillion of investment. So this is also the, a lot of this document is also had a lot of distraction, cultural war distraction. So why this is mentioned, why radical gender ideology and woke lunacy is mentioned, is to basically distract you from the fact that the US just spent $1 trillion of investment to military, which is basically the US sent $1 trillion to weapon manufacturer for the most part, like Lockheed Martin, etc. Lockheed Martin income 2025. Like this one. This is from 2025, and only the first 3 quarters they already got 5.8 billion to 5.9 billion, and this is just Lockheed Martin, and U.S. military is more than just Lockheed Martin. Yep, that's very small. Thank you. That's bigger. So all of this, all the tax money from US go into these companies for their military projects instead of making the economy better or making the people have a better living condition. This is why poverty in US is really bad, is because of this. And so this sentence, gender ideology and woke lunacy, is a distraction. So instead of focusing on what makes your life worse, they focus on what doesn't matter. It's cultural war nonsense. And also there's no invasion to their country. No such thing. We rebuild our alliances and got our allies to contribute more to our common defense, including a historic commitment from NATO countries to raise defense spending from 2% to 5% of GDP. Also, NATO is just another Western imperialism tool, so I have too much to comment here. We unleash American energy production to reclaim our independence and impose historic tariffs to bring critical industries back home. That doesn't happen. That never happened. The tariff, yes, it happened, but it didn't bring any industries back home. In fact, all the industries was gone because mass immigration is no such thing as mass immigration. Mass immigration happened in European country because European country attacked the nation, where then the people in those nations immigrate to America and UK and such thing. So there is it's basically protest about mass immigration is basically they shooting themselves in the foot and then complaining about it. And then there's the deindustrialization. This one. This is the cause of why all the critical industries from America and also UK and other European countries are gone. It's because they did this. Like the industrialization or neoliberalization, the industrialization. So they took down a lot of their factory. They closed down a lot of their factory and then opened them in foreign countries like in China for the most part at the best. Especially after they invite China to the global bank, to the global market. A lot of this happened because of Wall Street, the rise of the service economy and global competition, and then also economics. So this is what is causing critical industries to go away from US, and again this is them shooting themselves in the foot and then complaining about it, same as mass immigration and anything else that they complain about. Also, there's another lie. In Operation Midnight Hammer, we obliterated Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity. Iran never really have any plan for nuclear, and that's not even because of US. It's because also Iran is aware that if they try to do anything with nuclear, they might get sanctioned as heavily as North Korea. The only reason North Korea become as weird as they are right now, a lot of them is because of, again, American interference. I declare the drug cartel and civic foreign gangs operation in region as foreign terrorist organization. This is also made up. Right now in Venezuela, I think so far from the attempt at tracking the Venezuelan cartel that the US is bringing out here for a bit, at least Trump is bringing out for a bit, and then mention it as foreign terrorist organization. From what they've attempted at researching it, it doesn't exist. Cartel de las Sols doesn't exist. In Venezuela, there's no such thing as cartel de las Sols or cartel of the Suns. So this is basically this is outright a lie. And all of this is just an attempt at justifying their next attack at Venezuela. The same thing as in the 60s, in the 60s, the US used communists as a justification for attacking foreign countries. Then in the 90s, with Nixon and Bush and etc., they justify their attacks to foreign countries with war against jihadis or war against terror. And then this is the new one, foreign drug cartels and civic foreign gangs. For the course of just 8 months, we settled 8 raging conflicts, including in Cambodia and Thailand, Kosovo and Serbia, DRC and Rwanda, Pakistan and India, Israel and Iran, Egypt and Ethiopia, Armenia and Azerbaijan, and ending the war in Gaza with all living hostages returned to their family. None of this happened. Especially in Gaza, it's still ongoing. The genocide is still ongoing. There's the rather new one where Israel attacked a woman in Palestine with her child, and then they leave them to bleed while the chopper is hovering over them, over their bodies, so that nobody can rescue them. It's horrible stuff over there. Let me try to get the news. It's crazy how difficult it is to get news from for Palestine, because how much it was suppressed, I guess. Wait. I wish Google will do better, but I guess you can't really expect a Western company to be that critical to the West. You need to Google the exact sentence to get the news. That is how Google works nowadays. This one. Drone chases and kills elderly woman in Gaza. Israeli drone chases and kills elderly woman in Gaza as attacks continues. The Israel military said it killed 3 people in separate incidents, claiming they had crossed the yellow line, an unmarked boundary where Israel military repositioned itself when the ceasefire with Hamas came into effect on October 10. However, Hani Mahmoud, reporting from Gaza City, said the woman and her son were chased by a quadcopter drone about 1 kilometer, half a mile from the yellow line, and left there to bleed to death as the aircraft continued hovering overhead, preventing anyone from reaching them. So no. This one, ending the war in Gaza with all living hostages returned, ending the war in Gaza, is just no. They just straight up a lie. All of this is a lie. America is strong and respected again, and because of that we are making peace all over the world. Again, after what I've told you, wild stuff is being written here. It's basically America attempting at creating a simulacrum, a fake war, where the people who read this and didn't read anything else think that this is the truth. In everything we do, we are putting America first. That is true. A lot of people that is also pro-Palestine will claim that it is Israel first. It's not true. Israel-Palestine is an ongoing Western imperialist project. America has funded it since the 60s, so they have a lot to lose if Israel didn't win against the Palestinians. So it is still America first. Whatever Israel is doing there is doing in the name of America. It is an outpost of American warfare. It's a proxy war. What follows is the national security strategy to describe and build upon the extraordinary strides we have made. This documents a roadmap to ensure that America remains the greatest and most successful nation in human history and the home of freedom on earth. Freedom on earth only for some people. And the years ahead, we will continue to develop every dimension of our national strength, and we will make America safer, richer, freer, greater, and more powerful than ever before. And that is the only part that is true here. That they are attempting to make America a greater and more powerful than ever. And then he signed. Also, shout out Epstein. This table of content. This is just 33 pages and it's so short. I don't know why people on media didn't just read through it. It's driving me crazy. And see, this is barely one page. And this is table of content. This is all included in the 33 pages. They can just read through it easily. Anyway, introduction. What is American strategy? How American strategy went astray. To ensure that America remains the world's strongest, richest, more powerful, and most successful country for decades to come, our country needs a coherent, focused strategy for how we interact with the world. And to get that right, all Americans need to know what exactly it is we are trying to do and why. A strategy is a concrete, realistic plan that explains the essential connection between ends and means. It begins from an accurate assessment of what is desired. This is just word salad. This is also a word salad explaining what a strategy is. And then the purpose of foreign policy, sole purpose of the strategy. American strategies in the end of the Cold War have fallen short. I guess so, mostly because the Cold War, they control most of the information in the Cold War. I think it was only after Vietnam War that finally a lot of the news that what America did during the Cold War has gone out. So this is not true technically. This is not false technically. We have been laundry lists of wishes or desired and state have not clearly defined what we want, but instead of fake platitudes we have and have often misjudged what we should want. After the end of the Cold War, American foreign policy's elites convinced themselves that permanent American domination of the entire world was in the best interest of our country. Yet the affairs of other countries are our concern only if their activities directly threaten our interests. Our elites badly miscalculated America's willingness to shoulder forever global burden. This is also wrong, to which the American people saw no connection to the national interests. They overestimated America's ability to fund. Now, this is one of the most important lie, because American foreign aid is not free. Okay, so I have it somewhere here. The World Bank and IMF that had the word world in them, and IMF, which is international, is not exactly worldly or internationally, because the US still holds the only veto power in this organization. So it is basically an American organization, and a lot of the international funds that is made by the US from this organization, like USAID, it is for the benefit for American policy. It's so the world become more pro-American, and not just through the aid, but through what the aid can do. For example, this is one of the USAID mathematical book to Afghanistan. University of Nebraska Center for Afghanistan Studies to produce, print, and distribute millions of textbooks in Afghanistan. So this is the math book for a children mathematics book that the USAID gave to Afghanistan children. And then it did a lot of other things. I want to make a short about this, about US aid in the future, but I just don't have the time yet. This is another thing off the top of my head what the US aid is used for. So this is a reporting by Alan McLeod. When Trump cut US aid because he's a dumbass and he didn't know that US aid funds is for the benefit of America. He cut it off because he thinks it's woke, and woke is bad, and that's all he know. He's a dumbass. So when US aid falls, a lot of giant network of US funded independent media suddenly run out of money. They said that without US aid, they cannot continue with their reporting, and their reporting is mostly pro-United States reporting. So it reports news that try to paint US as this glorious, most progressive nation. And if you know the history of Western imperialism and American imperialism, that is far from the case. You cannot do imperialism and be progressive, because imperialism in its essence is fascist. So America is a fascist nation, and US aid and other organizations like it is an attempt to paint a different picture of America. And because of Trump and Elon Musk cutting US aid, they accidentally exposed what it did. And then another thing that the US aid also did, off the top of my head, this one. It funds opposition group to political party that they don't like. So for example, if a political party suddenly, for example, if you have a person in politics that is less corrupt than usual, and they want to take stances that is against Western imperialism or American imperialism, US aid can fund the opposition in order to fund smear campaigns and everything like that. So that is what US aid can do. So that's why a lot of countries that is funded by US aid is basically Western allies, because it makes sure that the government will stay pro-American. One of the example again that I just thought of is I think this is during the Vietnam War. During the Vietnam invasion, most like. This one. So famine in India is one of the result of British colonization. Is that beside 165 million dead, they also caused famine in India. I think that's one of the picture where think it's this one. Yeah, this is the famine in India. This is an Indian man, an Indian father, protecting his family from cannibals in India that appear in one of the famine. That is how bad the famine in India is. And because India criticized the US role in Vietnam War or in Vietnam invasion, they cut US food aid for India. That is what US aid is for. It's to control a foreign nation in what they did, the policy that they took. So again, all of this is just wrong. They blissfully misguided and destructive bets on globalism and so-called free trade that hollowed out the very middle class and industrial base on which American economic and military preeminence depend. They allowed allies and partners to offload the cost of their defense into the American people and sometimes to suck us into conflict and controversies central to their interests but peripheral or irrelevant to our own. And because of what I've just told you, this is also a lie, because all of US aid is for the benefit of America. And they less American policy to a network of international institutions, some of which are driven by outright anti-Americanism and many by transnationalism that explicitly seeks to dissolve individual state foreign sovereignty. And again, as I mentioned, US aid fund pro-American independent media in foreign countries so that their nation become more pro-American. This, again, is another lie. In sum, not only did our elites pursue a fundamentally undesirable and impossible goal, in doing so they undermined the very means necessary to achieve that goal, the character of our nation upon which its power, wealth, and decency were built. Power and wealth, yes; decency, not so much. President Trump's necessary welcome correction. None of this was inevitable. President Trump's first administration proved that with the right leadership making the right choices, all of the above could and should have been avoided and much as achieved. He and his team have successfully marshaled America's great strength to correct course and begin ushering in a new golden age for our country. To continue the United States on that path is the overarching purpose of President Trump's second administration and of this document. The questions before us now are: 1. What should the United States want? 2. What are available means to get it? And 3. How can we connect ends and means into a viable national security strategy? And then we enter into, finally, the essence of what this document is for. What should the United States want? What do we want overall? First and foremost, we want the continued survival and safety of the United States as an independent, sovereign republic whose government secures the God-given natural right of its citizens and prioritizes their well-being and interests. Again, a lie. United States doesn't care for its people. United States doesn't care for foreign nation people, and United States doesn't care for its own people. That's why both their bipartisan Democrat and Republican are working against the interests of the people. We want to protect this country, its people, its territory, its economy, and its way of life from military attack and hostile foreign influence, whether espionage, predatory trade practice, drug and human trafficking, destructive propaganda and influence operations, cultural subversion, and any other threat to our nation. We want full control over our borders, of our immigration system, and of our transportation network through which people come into our country, legally and illegally. Again, this is a distraction, cultural war nonsense. We want a world in which migration is not merely orderly, but one in which sovereign countries work together to stop rather more cultural war nonsense. Again, a lot of the migration and to the United States, one is because of United States practice of brain drain, because of the late stage capitalism in United States. Education there is very expensive, so a lot of skilled individuals are missing from a lot of many of American industries. So what they did, there's a research kit article of this. They did a lot of brain drain. So basically they took a lot of skilled individuals from foreign countries and then took them into America because one is cheaper and two because then they can still their school and their education system can still function less as an education system because they want their people to be kind of stupid. I mean, a lot of America are not even aware that Arabic numeral is just the basic 1, 2, 3 system numeral. That's how lacking their education are. Yes, I'm calling Americans stupid. And this is what happened. One of the main drive of immigration in America is because of this brain drain. That and also there are many wars in foreign nations. They are funding Saudi Arabia, they are funding UAE, they are funding wars in various countries. I think the US have launched 251 military interventions since 1991 and 496 since 1798. This is how much the US has attacked foreign nations. And then beside that, the US also provide military assistance to 73% of world dictatorship. So a lot of dictators around the world, like South Vietnam, for example, the easiest example I can think of, and then Pinochet from Chile, even Pol Pot is also funded by USA, and there's many others. So 73% of world's dictatorship, Suharto is also one of them, is supported, has military assistance from the US. And that's why immigration isn't a big issue, is because Western imperialism like America and British and France and German kept attacking foreign nations, and the people in those nations that want to avoid war then escaped to another country and became immigration. If Western imperialists stop doing this, immigration is less of a problem. Also, as I mentioned, US aid is also for keeping poor nation poor, because US also like to do unequal exchange. So the systematic transfer of value, labor, resource, and capital from global south to the US or global north through trade is not balanced. It heavily favor US. So when you do import-export with nations from global north, from Western imperialism, you're basically selling at a loss. So that's one of the function of that's one of the reason why US actively try to keep poor nation poor. It's using this unequal exchange. One war which migration is not merely orderly, but one which sovereign countries work together to stop rather than facilitate destabilizing population flows and have full control over whom they do and do not admit. resilient national infrastructure that can withstand natural disasters, resist and thwart foreign threats, and prevent or mitigate any events that might harm the American people or disrupt the American economy. No adversary or danger should be able to hold America at risk. This is also very what a mess this document is. Because the US, at least currently, at least during the Biden era, the US still try to do some climate change prevention, even if it's word of mouth only, without any of the practices. But during Trump era, again, Trump era America is basically America mess up moments, like changing the Department of Defense into Department of War. That is basically just America mess up moments. And this, America cannot say this right now because the US is one of the biggest component of creating climate change. So I made a short about it. But the US military, or all of military, because of Western imperialism, is not, the carbon emission from them is not counted. This Kyoto and Paris Agreement essentially created a military emission blind spot by exempting or making military carbon reporting voluntary due to national security concern. So every country, especially America, since America did this and this, none of this is counted as part of the carbon emission that causes climate change because of this. So this is again a whole lot of bullshit. We want to recruit, train, equip, and field the world's most powerfully talented technological advanced military to protect our interests, deter wars, and if necessary, win them quickly and decisively. And this one is true. Part of the reason why a lot of tech giants went into military industrial complex. Militarization of Silicon Valley, big tech joined military, Meta, OpenAI, Palantir, etc. Even Spotify is putting money into military, right? Daniel Ek leads 600 million investment in AI military defense company Helsing. So that part is true, and again, it's all for the benefit of the top people in America, so it's for money. If necessary, okay, decisively, etc. Or war salad, nuclear deterrent, missile defense, golden dome. This one is kinda true. Protect American people, American asset overseas, and American allies. But again, this is just for some of the chosen people that the top people in America wanted to protect. Not everyone is included even in this list, even in the people that is mentioned in this list. We want the world's strongest, most dynamic, most innovative, and most advanced economy. The US economy is better of American way of life, which promotes and delivers widespread and broad-based prosperity. This is also a lie. American inequality is one of the worst in the world. With I think Elon Musk is projected to become the first trillionaire. That is how much inequality is happening in the US. Meanwhile, a lot of people cannot pay for their education, cannot pay for their healthcare, cannot pay for their food. So this is bullshit. Creates mobility and reward hard work. Which is where the book that I read is come to. I'm currently reading. You're paid what you're worth. And other myths of the modern economy. So this is against bullshit. We want the world's most robust industrial base. American national power depends on strong industrial sector capable of meeting both peacetime and wartime protection demands that require not only direct defense industrial production capacity but also defense-related production capacity. Cultivating American industrial strength must become the highest priority of national economic play. One more robust blah 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 blah. American leading export industry in its own right. Remain the world's most scientific technology advanced. This is against word salad. America is great. Blah blah blah. We want to protect our intellectual property from foreign theft. Sure. We want to maintain United's unrivaled soft power through which we exercise positive influence throughout the world that further our interests. The only thing that is true here is that their unrivaled soft power further their interests, and that's it. There's no such thing as positive influence or anything like that. I mentioned this when I explained how US aid works, but US soft power, like US aid and then sanction and embargo, etc., which is their economic operation is also considered soft power. That is all for the benefit of United States. In doing so, we will be unapologetic about our country's past and present while respectful of other countries' differing religions, cultures, and governing system. Again, this is all lies. Soft power that serves America's true national interests is the only one that is correct. Inherent greatness and decency. I wish they stopped mentioning decency because there's nothing about America that is decent. At least their imperialist side of it, which is most of their government, or all of them. Finally, we want the restoration and reinvigoration of American spiritual and cultural health, without which long-term security is impossible. We want an America that cherishes its past glories and its heroes. They already did this. American Sniper, for example, is glorifying their past and their heroes, even though Kyle, I think it was Kyle something, the person who American Sniper is based from is a very racist American that glorified killing Iraqis. So them glorifying their past is correct. Look forward to a new golden age. We want the people who are proud, happy, and optimistic that they will leave their country to the next generation better than they found it. We want a gainful, employed citizenry with no one sitting on the sideline who takes satisfaction from knowing that their work is essential to prosperity of our nation. This cannot be accomplished without having a number of strong traditional families that raise healthy children. They slammed those trade waves into their nice progressive value. What do you want in and from the board? Okay. This is one of the another main point in this. You want to ensure that the Western Hemisphere remains reasonably stable and well covered enough to prevent discouraged mass migration to the United States. Oh no, this is still just more culture war nonsense. Again, narco-terrorist is their new term. It's not exactly a new term, but it's the term that they took newly. As I mentioned previously, in the 60s it was the communists, in the 90s it was the jihadists, now it's narco-terrorists. It's always something new with these guys. In other words, the research enforced a Trump corollary to the Monroe Doctrine. They legit said they want to do Monroe Doctrine. The Monroe Doctrine, as I mentioned, is US colonialism project. This is the Monroe Doctrine. This is US colonial project when they took a lot of states that surrounds them at that time. So Latin America and mostly Monroe Doctrine is for Latin America, but it is still a very colonial project. They did so many war crimes there in Latin America during this Monroe Doctrine. It's insane. Also, it's even more insane that in 2025 they want to do they outright just said that they want to do Monroe Doctrine because it's a colonial project. Just like Manifest Destiny. This is their previous colonial project. The Atlantic to the Pacific. 19th century American believed that the United States was divinely ordained to expand its territory and spread democracy and capitalism across the entire North American continent, from the Atlantic to the Pacific. So this is part 1 and this is part 2. And they want to do it again. Want to hold reverse ongoing damage for an actor conflict in America, keeping Indo-Pacific free and open. This is, for the most part, is India, because India has the largest population on Earth right now, even bigger than China, and India took a very neutral stance towards their foreign policy, at least. That's why you see India in the Quad. This one, the Quad. And you also see India in the China road belt. No, not road belt. the alliance between India, China, and Russia. So India can do two of these at the same time. It's because they took a very neutral stance on their foreign policy, no interference at all. This is but despite being neutral in everything, America still see India as their allies. That's why they are mentioned here, that America want to keep them free and open. Because mostly America just needed the supply chains from them. And even Europe is mentioned. I don't know why Europe is complaining about the Monroe Doctrine. And the Middle East again is mentioned for the first time here with their oil and gas supply. This is because of another plan of them, which is the Great Trust. This is the Trump-Gaza plan that the UN just approved. This is basically to create the IMEC route. This one. And if you pay close attention to it, it's gone past Israel Haifa, which is why it became part of the Trump-Gaza plan to create the IMEC route. This is to counter the China's again, a lot of this is against China, the documents. One. This is the IMEC trade route is an attempt at countering the China One Belt and One Road, which is, I think it was named China Belt and Road India's initiative. Yeah, and it still have a lot of flaws. For example, its goal for now, I think, is too big and cost too much, especially to the nation that China is attempting to do this right now, which is in Africa. But it's still far better than US aid that is primarily to keep the poor countries poor again for the benefit of the United States. China Belt and Road at least build infrastructures into the country that is trying to reach. And already because of those infrastructure, in Africa there's a joke that basically says, when European comes, we got a lesson, we got told what to do. When China comes, we got a hospital. And this is the African saying this to a European, and then the European told, no, that's not what we do something else. And then the African said back to the European, see, you gave us a lesson, you just told us what to do. That is a very common Africa joke that is based on European and China aid. And also, besides the infrastructure, it provides a lot of the nation where the Belt and Road is done. It gives scholarship, both full scholarship and partial scholarship, and then it gives them allowance, living stipend, and also medical insurance. So already this is far superior than the US aid. that is why America is trying to counter this, because if this got popular, if this if a lot of nations adopt the Belt and Road from China, US aid will be unpopular and America will lose one of its major soft power. Because right now, I think there's a lot of misinformation about US aid. I think both the Democrat and Republican are very panicked because of the loss of, because Trump closed their biggest soft power, which is US aid. So they make a lot of this kind of studies. 14 million lives could be lost to Trump aid cuts. But if you look at the study, no, it's nowhere near 14 million lives. It's trying to prepare America so that the American people will support US aid once again. I don't know if it will work or not, but this is what the Democrat and Republican is trying to put US aid back into power. Then they also mentioned the forever wars, which is ironic because forever wars is basically US policy. And this one, US technology and standard, this is direct, and also quantum computing, this is directed at China. Again, which is something very ironic because US policy, US already brain drain one of the biggest figure in quantum computing, which is a Chinese man. But then they did all that weird things with very anti-China rhetoric. And as a result, the guy went back to China because of that. Author of quantum computing went back to China because of US policy. I think it's this guy, John Weapon. So in 2018, he works at MIT, and then I forgot which year, but he went back to China because of US very anti-China policy, and as a result, they lose one of the biggest figure that spearheaded the quantum computing. Again, he used to work at MIT. He only went back to China because of America. Then chapter 3, what America's paper means to get what we want. And this is what they want. America retains the world's most enviable position with world-leading assets, the resource, and advantages. Okay, this is for salad mostly. And this is the important part here, including the dollar's global reserve currency status. So they want to keep the dollar hegemony because it gives them significant economic and political power. Again, this is why they did the unequal exchange and why they use a lot of tools like US aid to keep poorer country poor, so that the dollar will continue becoming the hegemony. A broad network of alliances. An enviable geography with abundant natural resources in our hemisphere. No competing power physically dominant in our hemisphere border. And this is also one of the reasons why they want to take Venezuela, why they lie about the cartel of the Suns, why they lie about narco-terrorism. It's because of this. Because right now, China leads critical minerals production. So when US tried to do the tariff war against China, they lost immediately because one, America already deindustrialized their factories, so they cannot manufacture their own thing. And also, China has more minerals than US, and America is very dependent on China's minerals. And this is also why they try to attack Venezuela or Latin America, why they want to get it. Because Latin America has so much resources. It's one of the most rich land where they can extract a lot of things from it. It is why they are after Chile, they are after Argentina, they are after Colombia, they are after Honduras, Nicaragua, they are after Mexico, they are after Venezuela. And also another thing, Venezuela already nationalized their oil back in 1975. Taking control of their own oil, ending more than half a century of dominance by foreign oil companies. So because of the thing I mentioned, the unequal exchange, if you sell your oil to foreign nation like America, you sell it at a loss. So Venezuela nationalized, Carlos Andres Perez nationalized their oil and take control of the oil from American companies, from American petroleum companies. And then just a few years ago, 2007, when Hugo Chavez was the president of Venezuela, he also did the same. He kicked out ExxonMobil and ConocoPhillips from Venezuela. Nationalization drive. United States said could hurt its oil supply. And as usual, with Iraq and everything else, one of the reasons why America attack a foreign country is one of its reason is always for oil. So if they manage to take Venezuela, that's all the thing that they can get. This is again cultural war nonsense, word salad. I guess I can understand why news media doesn't want to read it, but again, they're news media. They should read this more than me. They want reindustrialization. This is what I mentioned when America wants deindustrialize their economy, closing down many of their own factory, so they cannot manufacture anything else on their own, because it's cheaper to do it in foreign countries. And this is more of the same of that. And the goal, as always, American dominance. And this is what they're going to do to accomplish all of that. Again, more bullshit. The Abraham Accord is one of the plan that can help with the where is it? This one. This is part of the plan for Abraham Accord, which is basically an agreement between the Abraham religion. It means America and its Middle East allies like Saudi Arabia, Egypt, etc. I don't think Saudi Arabia is in it yet, but Trump has been inviting him a lot. And again, more lies about the peace that he did. More lies about stopping regional conflicts, because again, this, and then there's also this, the Colombian fisherman that they just killed because because they said it was carrying drugs, and after the investigation is done, the ship isn't even big enough to reach America, so the fisherman just died for nothing. This is more tragedy because of America. So all this peace talk is just more bullshit upon bullshit. This is the only thing that is true, I guess. Peace through strength. That's why they did this. Because this is peace for America. And non-interventionism is against more word salad, more bullshit, because the US has done military intervention more than any other nation. There is a part where they threaten the countries, nation that don't agree with them. There's this, which is not as blatant, who's like-minded friends to uphold our shared norms, and their shared norm is this. sovereign right of nation against the sovereign shaping incursion, most interest of transnational organization, assist rather than hinder individual sovereignty and further American interests. This is the only part that is export trading. Yeah, all the other things in here is just word salad. I guess a politician really did write this. Free speech rights. And right now they're putting a lot of pro-Palestinian protesters into jail. There's also the using ICE agency. Cynical manipulation of our immigration system. This one is also, as I mentioned, is because of their self, because they kept doing this and doing this, and also because of brain drain, because most American is, they make most American dumb, so they need people that are not dumb to work there. That is what they mean by cynical manipulation of our immigration system. Cannot allow any nation to become so dominant that it could threaten our interests. This is, they want to keep the dollar hegemony. They want to keep American hegemony. God, so many bullshit. United States reject the elevated concept of global domination for itself. We must prevent the global and in some cases even regional domination of others. And the United States did this all the time. They did this all the time. A lot of this is I don't know if it's subtle or not, but it's a threat to people that are trying to join the Belt and Road Initiative. So this is what this means by outside influence of larger, richer, and stronger nation and timeless truth of international relation. And by toward ambition that threaten or joint interest means toward ambition, toward Americans' ambition. American policy will be pro-worker, which is more bullshit because America is one of the most anti-union country. And some of the union that they let live either got too big and they cannot suppress it anymore, or they managed to co-opt them into taking policies that are beneficial to the companies that they unionize against. So they want other countries to build their military so America can use them for their proxy wars. I mean, even during their Vietnam invasion, there's a lot of other nations that also join in the war crimes that America did. South Korea is one of them. South Korea also comes to Vietnam, and then did so many war crimes there. War crimes that also includes crimes to women and young girls. And they want more of that. Good for us. Computers and merit, this is also false. America is not based on meritocracy, it is based on inheritocracy. A lot of capitalistic countries are based on inheritocracy, so it's not just America, but America is basically the founder of it. This one, meritocracy. There's also a book of it that I haven't read yet. I know the concept, but I haven't gotten the time to read the book. So I only know of the basic concept of it. It's basically you have to have someone in your family members, or if you're lucky, someone in your friend group that knew someone else that can help you either get a job or create a new business model or a new business. So right now, a lot of our economic system is not meritocracy, and America is definitely not meritocracy. Meritocracy is where you do it yourself and then you start from scratch basically. And then based on your hard work, you are awarded from it. That is meritocracy. That is you're paid what you are worth of. And it's a myth. In our current world, it's a myth because our current world is inheritocracy, where you have to have inherited something in order to gain something. So again, all of this bullshit. Maybe the only thing that is true here that I've read, this one. This is basically brain drain. But they just put it there because one, most people won't read this, and again, even if they read it, they won't recognize it. Again, this is more cultural war nonsense. This is a distraction. Also, a lot of what is mentioned here, it is the effect of worsening economy. Increased violence, other crimes, weaken social cohesion, distorted labor markets, and undermine national security. This is the effect of late-stage capitalism. This is not the effect of mass migration. But they slam mass migration while they mention this as a distraction, so that people, instead of blaming the capitalism system that caused this, they blame immigrants. So again, this is cultural war nonsense, this is distraction. They also again slam the war terrorism and drugs side by side there. Because American government secure God-given natural right of American citizen. Let's go back to reading the Manifest Destiny. American believed that the United States was divinely ordained to expand its territory and spread democracy and capitalism across the entire North America continent. God-given natural right. They did this a lot. I don't know why they say this power must never be abused, because if anyone has abused them, it's America. Where there's power abuse, abuser must be held accountable, but America never held themselves accountable. In Vietnam War, after America finished invading America or lost the war, the United States imposed a trade embargo on Vietnam, cutting off war-wrecked country. 1969? I forgot how long it was. The restriction is only lifted in 1991, so it's really long. 19 years, I think. Yeah, 19 years. So almost 2 decades. So the US never held themselves accountable when they did these war crimes. In Vietnam, in Iraq, in Afghan, in Chile, in Ghana, in Indonesia, in everywhere else. They never paid for it. So I don't know why they're talking about holding people accountable, except if they want to redirect their accusation to someone else. Every accusation is a confession, right? And I forgot which country. It is also notable that the US did this. They also did economic sanction on Cuba for even until now. And India, I showed at the start of the stream, because India criticized the US about their attack on Vietnam. The US cut the fund during famine, cut the food aid during famine, which is a whole lot of mess up. They did so many things. Oh yeah, also Japan. The first horse, Yakuso. You know that Japan did a lot of war crimes, right? And they're supposed to pay for them. But the US shift in the policy of the US government, US-led occupation Japan, sought to reform with Japan. The emphasis of occupation policy shifted from demilitarization and democratization of Japan to economic reconstruction and remilitarization of Japan in support of the US Cold War. So the America, for its own benefit, will not hold any war crimes accountable, including those of Japan's. That is what it means by America first. And I remember there's another thing. I mean, I remember it off the top of the tip of my tongue. I guess it's just another example of more or the same, so it's not that important right now. You have to slam that at the end, especially among our allies. I think a lot of the manufacturing concern machine of the Western media also did this, especially among our allies. So when their allies did war crimes, they try to downplay it or not report it at all, like the one in Israel-Palestine right now. And also, not just Israel right now, in Congo, in Sudan, even in Papua. Especially among our allies. Okay. Assume primary exposure for the region, contribute far more to our collective fan. The Hague Commitment. It's more of the same. This is trying to push countries to militarize, which is never a good thing. Willingly take more responsibility for security. Willingly. There's no outside force that is trying to influence it. They willingly take more responsibility for security in their neighborhoods and align their export control with ours. With ours. This is like an Onion article. God damn it. Realignment through peace. Which one was it? Trump says Greenland takeover needed for war peace. Realignment through peace. Takeover through peace. Increase stability, strengthen America's global influence, realign countries and regions toward our interests. Economic security. Anti-competitive practice. Again, this is funny coming from America because Netflix just got this. Netflix just got Warner Bros. And Discovery and HBO, so you know. Anti-competitive practices means just they won't stop monopoly. That's it. securing access to critical supply chains and materials. This is why they want, again, this is why they want to take Venezuela, why they want to take Greenland even, and why they want to take Palestine. Support this, so they can do this. So they can do this. Also, India is included because the Indo-Pacific that the article mentioned before, the document mentioned before. A lot of word salad for people that don't know how America works. And finally, they admit that America needs reindustrialization because a lot of the talking point of Trump when they did the tariff war is that they want to take back material production to their own country, and then they realize that in United States have none of them because they've reindustrialized everything. They closed down every factory to get cheaper production and cheaper labor in foreign countries. For different, okay, supply chain. Talk about supply chain. I think they finally realized that they don't have a good supply chain, especially after COVID. Preservation of peace through strain. Okay. Energy dominance. Again, they only mention oil, gas, coal, and nuclear because this document, a lot of these documents are made for Trump, or written for Trump, and Trump doesn't like green or renewable energy because it's woke. Solar power is woke. What can I say? Tech, AI, more nonsense, more word salad. They even put climate change in quotation mark and net zero idea. Okay, they do climate change denial in the document. Sure, why not? This is such a messy document. I love this. This is pure garbage. But because they dumbed down a lot of American education, most Americans will believe this document when they read it. Free market system, neoliberal capitalization. Remain the envy of the world. Yeah, right now America feels like a loser because according to their own data, I think the world leading GDP right now is China. In America is around 15%, I think. so many of Google and news is filled with anti-China garbage. So it's hard to find even research that is done by the US government that can be a little bit pro-China. It's not even pro-China, it's just the world GDP right now. It's not this one. There's a little bit of this one, but there's a better graph, but it's hard to find them unless I know the site where it is, where the graph are. This is why the short I make took a long time, because there's a better graph that can explain it better. This one is a bit messy. Because the world GDP of America in long term go down and the world GDP of China goes up. And Trump doesn't like to feel like a loser. He wants to remain the envy of the world. That's why this is done. Also some self-aware joke that is not self-aware, because a lot of these documents are bloated and unfocused. They should look at the mirror for this. And again, the Monroe Doctrine is mentioned again multiple times, this time also as a header. Restore America preeminence in the Western Hemisphere. So they want to make basically every nation in Latin America into China, so into a pro-American country. Because right now Venezuela is not pro-America, Cuba is not pro-America, Colombia is not pro-America. So they want to change things, do some coup, military intervention, whatever they needed, in order to restore American preeminence in the Western Hemisphere. They did this to Panama. So this is Marco Rubio. This is the second in power in America right now, basically, Secretary of State. He have threatened Panama to reduce Chinese influence over its canal or face US measures, economic sanction, or maybe even military invasion, or coup. And then he also has done some sales speech to do war in Venezuela. One of the sales speech is this false narrative about drug trafficking. So this is what it means by restore American preeminence in the Western Hemisphere. more lie, more war, more colonization, more neo-colonization. That is, after all, the Monroe Doctrine is it's a colonial project. Enlist and expand. The adjustment of global 3%, hemisphere, meaning identifying the strategy. It is human and drug trafficking. Trump pardoned major drug traffickers despite his anti-drug rhetoric. 100 people accused of drug-related crimes during his time in office. So again, this is bullshit. Any mention of drug in a negative sense for America right now is just an excuse for them to attack Venezuela, and that's it, nothing else. Nothing actually related to drugs. Mention of fake cartels. More sophisticated Western Hemisphere. Western Hemisphere is also a word that is mentioned a lot. Instead of just mentioning America, they will mention this document Western Hemisphere, because that will become part of the supply chain. But as with the case with World Bank and IMF, this Western Hemisphere is basically just for America. That's why they then mention that the hemisphere will increase American economic resilience. The linkage will benefit both sides, but also it will mostly benefit America, as is the case with World Bank and IMF. That's why the UK is losing more of its power compared to America, even though the UK is part of every major American organization like UN, NATO, IMF, World Bank. It's because a lot of those organizations works for the benefit of America. World Bank and IMF especially, because America have the sole veto power. So America can say no to any policy that other countries try to direct World Bank and IMF into if it didn't benefit America. And then this is the part that they threaten people. As we deepen our partnership with countries with whom America presently has strong relations, we must look to expand our network in the region. We want other nations to see us as their partner of first choice, and we will, through various means, discourage their collaboration with others. This is a direct threat. This is a threat for people that understand America's foreign policy, which that they will use what I mentioned before. They will intervene militarily, they will intervene economically, they will intervene politically. Maybe they will use US aid to fund the opposition party of their partners if America didn't become their first choice. So this is a direct threat to nations that are not pro-American, nations that wanted to, for example, join the Belt and Road. And the fact that they put it in the documents means that they just don't care anymore, I guess, for people to find out. In the hemisphere, non-hemispheric competitors. This is again, it didn't mention it by name, but this is mostly China. Disadvantages us economically in the present and in ways that may harm us strategically in the future. This is also mentioning the Belt and Road, even though the Belt and Road Initiative is not marketed as anti-American, but America is also not there. And also, this directly threatens the US aid because, as I mentioned previously, US aid is to keep poor country poor instead of actually giving aid. So if this succeeds, the US aid will lose its soft power. And then they finally mention Latin America by name. Given the political alignment between certain Latin American government and certain foreign actors. Again, this is China. Not ideologically aligned with foreign powers means not socialist, not communist. Attracted to doing business with them for other reasons, including low cost and fewer regulatory hurdles. Again, while this is true, they omitted a lot of things here. Because a lot of these countries already operate in a way that benefit America first and foremost, even more than their own country, even more than their own people. Yes, if success in rolling back outside influence in the Western Hemisphere by demonstrating with specificity how many hidden costs, espionage, cybersecurity, debt traps, and other ways are embedded in allegedly low-cost foreign assistance. This is self-report because debt traps is how United States operates. Again, World Bank, IMF, USAID. So this is also another case of every accusation is a confession here. The choice all countries should face is whether they want to live in an American-led world. Oh God. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare we're living in. I mean, they did a lot of work for this to happen. The USA were They already put so much money in trying to make foreign nation into pro-US nation. Hundreds of so-called independent media, exposing a worldwide network of thousands of journalists, are working to promote US interests in their home countries. So that's why they want this, because they put a lot of money there. Invest in critical mineral access. This is, you can read this as they want to take over Latin American resources and also labor, cheap labor. We should make every effort to push out foreign companies that build infrastructure in the region. The US aid is always, you know how the saying is, you teach a man, you give a man a fish and they eat for a day. You teach a man how to fish and they eat for the rest of their life, or something like that. The US aid is basically just giving a man a fish. They give them the end result of that food. They never give any help with tools, infrastructure, something that will make the country independent, because the US aid function is so that that country will become dependent on US aid. And then US aid also is not transparent with what it did, so it sometimes fund the opposition party that is more corrupt and more pro-US. It can also give mathematical books that are very, very extremist and all of that. That is why they want to stop the Belt and Road, because the Belt and Road actually creates a global infrastructure network. There's infrastructure that is built in those nations. That is not just the belt, the train track and everything like that, but every foundation that service those tracks, that keep them running. So it also provides a lot of job opportunities, and they want to stop it. And finally, they mentioned China by name. 3 decades of mistaken American assumption about China. This is where they reveal their how bitter they are and how envious they are of China's position nowadays. Because China used to be one of the poorest countries, and when America opened the global market to any nation, as I mentioned, using the World Bank and IMF and everything like that, usually they try to make the nation subservient to America and become their subordinate nation in a sense. And China refused to do that and actually built from the opportunity that they got from being in the global market, as that America is open to them. And while America is busy making their very rich become more rich, China did the opposite. China built. And as a result, it had more, economically it had more power than America. I think it's safe to say that. The GDP grab is gone. But I already show you the GDP of China versus America, where China's GDP in the world ranking right now is higher than America. That's why President Trump is very bitter about it, because he want to have the biggest dick in the room. American elites over. Okay, at least they're aware that they did this to themselves, in a way. Atau not in a self-reflective way, but more in a I wish we never did that way. God damn it. They are so close to being right there. Oh, they mentioned it here. Yeah, I forgot about that. So the Indo-Pacific is already 1/3 of the nominal GDP. I think about 40% of it. China is 20% and America is 15%. Major agreement to this October 2025 travel. This is where they said to China, oh, my bad. We didn't realize that we need you, so we're really sorry for the tariff that we did. Please don't abandon us. Unrivaled soft power. That's right, at least. A lot of their soft power is not just from economic sanction and embargo and US aid, but they also have their movie industry, basically. A lot of military propaganda from America comes from their movies. Even in Lilo and Stitch, the latest Lilo and Stitch, the remake of the live action one, they have a whitewashing of CIA agent. So they already practice child indoctrination, because Lilo and Stitch is targeted to children, so the propaganda there is meant for children. This is America. So they're not wrong about unrivaled soft power in a sense, because there's so much propaganda there that people sometimes mistook non-propaganda as propaganda. American Sniper is also one of them. Towards poorest countries. So instead of, if only America is not such a bad country, such an evil country, you will think that seeing one of the world's poorest country transform into one of the richest country, there's something that is praiseworthy there, because it's, especially in a country that claims that it is meritocracy, America should have praised China, at least the growth of China's economy from being one of the poorest country into one of the richest country, or the richest country, which I think is not the richest country yet. I think America is still the richest country just based on the dollar hegemony alone. But no, they didn't praise them at all. They just became envious of it. Because a lot of how rich America got is based on doing atrocities. Strengthening its sort of supply chain. It is also something that America gave to China when America deindustrialized their nation and then made everything in China because it's cheaper there. Rebalance America's economic relations with China. Robust and ongoing focus on deterrence to prevent war in the Indo-Pacific. I think the US has pushed Japan into making threats towards China, which again makes sense because Japan is American 41st state, yeah. '51st state. So this is one of the things that they've done. So it's not just on the document, they have done this. This is why Japan has escalated conflict towards China against Taiwan, which is beyond fuck up because the first time that Taiwan is not part of China. Taiwan used to be part of China. The first time Taiwan did not become part of China is because Japan colonialized it and then it never went back to China. So this I don't even have a word for what Japan is doing here, because this is what they did. This is what they did. But because of the reverse course that happened earlier that I mentioned, Japan has basically become America's 51st state. And this is an interview that unnamed Japanese politician. Forgot this question. This is about American invasion to Iraq, by the way. So the interviewer asked the politician in Japan what Japan think about America's invasion to Iraq. If there is no new UN resolution, will Japan still show understanding? Question mark. And then the answer from the politician is that I think it has no choice. After all, Japan is like an American state. Because after the reverse course, Japan became a subservient country of American. I think at least in its government and its foreign policy. This reverse course focused on strengthening, not punishing, what will become a key Cold War ally. This is the biggest reason why Japan never paid for any of its war crime. It's because America pulled them into one of its allies. And that is what this document means by robust and ongoing focus on deterrence to prevent war in the Indo-Pacific. More word salad, especially because fentanyl is made in America, not from foreign nation. American fentanyl came from its late capitalistic practice of pharmaceutical. I think I read the book about the forgot the name of the book. There's Purdue and there's Sackler. This one, Sackler Dynasty. The Sackler Dynasty is an American company, is an American family, and Purdue is also an American company. So every mention of drug and fentanyl, blaming Venezuela, blaming Colombia, blaming foreign nation, is all bullshit because all of the drugs was made in America, and all of the epidemic was caused by American policy of deregulating how drugs can be made and distributed. If you went to America, one of the first things that you saw on the TV will be an ad either for gambling or for medicine. And some of those medicines are the medicines that turns into the opioid epidemic and the fentanyl. And this is also pushed by their late-stage capitalism practice of insurance, where a lot of doctors and a lot of insurance push for patients to use fentanyl, to use drugs in order to combat, in order, I don't know in order for what, just they ask them to take it, they push them to take it because the drug industry lobbied billions of dollars to make them do that. This is American. Again, every accusation is a confession. Predatory economic practice, which is again, every accusation is a confession. And they also finally mention India by name, encourage New Delhi, contribute to Indo-Pacific security. I think eventually America will push India to be non-neutral. But right now it's not. The Quad is also mentioned by name here. Australia, Japan, United States, and India. So this is the allies that the US have in these regions. This is also why Japan has been poking at China using Taiwan. And Taiwan also is a nation that is very hostile toward China. Taiwan has mentioned multiple times that China is part of Taiwan, while China never mentioned once that Taiwan is part of them before Taiwan did that first. But in its reporting, it's easy to make people think that the opposite is what happened because China is bigger economically and land-wise. But Taiwan is the one that is hostile toward China. At least right now. I don't know in the future. This is talking more about politics. Also, future of military power such as AI. This is one of the funny news. Top US Army General says he used ChatGPT not to make combat decisions, but so yeah, General William Taylor said that he used ChatGPT. Hey ChatGPT, how do I train my staff? How do I do combat? How do I, pull out my dick out of my pants? That is the future of US military. Offensive cyber operation. They have done this a lot. They've put billions into the offensive cyber operation, which is just basically pushing out more fake news to foreign nations, foreign competitors, not just foreign nations, but their opposition, including using AI. Because Vietnam is not using capitalism, when Vietnam become part of the victim of the South Asian flood that happened recently, there's so many fake news that come from America about what happened in the floods there. Even though they did quite a good job, they even have drones. Yeah, they even use drones to save flood victims. And they've also have done a lot of land redistribution and land reform, and move people who used to live in shacks in flooded areas. They move them to higher places with better housing for free. And despite that, there's so many AI floating. I don't know if it become news. I just knew it because yeah, it become news. Can you imagine that? I can't imagine any other countries that saw a nation that they have attacked previously multiple times, got into a disaster, then they thought, oh, this is a good opportunity for me to do some propaganda. I can benefit from this disaster. Offensive cyber operations from America. We have made clear to our allies that America's current account deficit is unsustainable. They're so greedy, fuck up. help rebalance China's economies. Because Southeast Asia, Latin America, and Middle East cannot alone absorb China's enormous excess capacity. They're such sore losers. God damn. There's a lot of. This is what makes criticizing China become difficult, right? Because there are things from China that you should criticize. One of it is even here. It's this one. Trump gets a plan, or the Great Trust was approved by the UN because China and Russia abstained. Russia, I guess, you can expect much from Russia because there also right now are just oligarchs, oil oligarchs also. But China could have taken a slight risk to a country that is already hostile to them, and then vote no. And if China vote no, this plan will not be approved during the UN meeting. Okay, this is UN News. Resolution 2803 received 13 votes in favor, none against. China and Russia abstaining. This, you should criticize this because China could have taken a slight risk for the Palestinian people without losing much, since US will do what US did anyway, even if whether they abstain or they say no. But it's hard to push criticism toward China because it is flooded with so many US anti-China conspiracy and propaganda. Tibet is also one of those things that you should be able to criticize openly without having to romanticize past Tibet that did slavery and also a lot of other fuck up things. Because a new Tibet in a new era, I think, could do better to its people, to its own people, if China wanted to let go of it. But again, it's hard to criticize China because US kept doing stupid propaganda like this. Joint plan for the so-called Global South. Even though America has already done so much damage to the Global South, it's still not enough for them. They're so greedy. More nonsense about free market capitalism, which is just basically neoliberal capitalism in nowadays era, after Reagan era. And then another mention of Persian Gulf. One of the reasons why Trump is so adamant on Persian Gulf is because I think there's one that I mentioned before. Because I think Hong Kong operates in the Panama Canal, and Persian Gulf is one of them. So that's why Trump is so obsessed with getting Persian Gulf. It's partly because of this. I think they'll push for more direct threats if Panama didn't cut ties with China, but we'll have to see what step will China take to prevent that, and also which side will Panama eventually choose, because I think a lot of people are more and more aware that being American ally doesn't benefit them. As I mentioned multiple times, World Bank, IMF, despite World Bank and IMF, despite being called international in front of it, they all benefit US the most, since US has the only veto power in those organizations. So being a US ally means you have to do anything in your power to benefit USA. So you have to benefit less compared to US. So there's not much incentive in modern days to become a US ally. So I don't know what Panama will do. America can help low-income countries develop their own capital markets. And so far their only help is only getting the rich in the poor countries to become richer. Well, also the rich in America is even richer than the rich in poor countries. This is what this means by develop their own capital markets. Bind their currencies more closely to the dollar, ensuring the dollar's future as the world's reserve currency. The strike up just said we want dollar's hegemony. Again, much focus on Taiwan. This is despite Taiwan was colonized by Japan and then never went back to China. And there's also a threat they mentioned to South China Sea. I think this is part of this one, Present Grand Plan for China. So the Treasury Secretary from US right now have a plan that he called a Grand Encirclement Plan for China, which is they want to isolate China and then reduce its allies and reduce its capability to trade with other nations, which is why it's called Grand Encirclement. And this South China Sea mentioned here is part of that Grand Encirclement Plan. Does not support any unilateral change to the status quo in the Taiwan Straits because it's already pro-US. The status quo of Taiwan Strait is pro-US. Yeah, they've also built a lot of military over there. I think even in Japan, I think in Hokkaido or Okinawa, which basically belongs to US after the reverse course. Is it Okinawa? I forgot. Yeah, Okinawa. So after World War II, with the reverse course, because the US wanted to militarize Japan and then use it for their own purpose, they built base in Okinawa, established massive military base, controlled civil life. They said that they returned administration to Japan in 1972, but they also leave behind a lot of their presence there, and it's still basically a US controlled state. Well, along with many parts of Japan, especially Japan foreign policy. Yeah, Japan will become a big part of this Grand Encirclement plan. I think they've already taken steps towards that. Strong measure developed along with the deterrence necessary, required not just further investment in our military, especially naval, but also strong cooperation with every nation that stands to suffer, from India to Japan and beyond, if this problem is not addressed. Even though in the long run, in the long term, if this happen and this plan succeed and America took down China and become the world hegemony again, there will be more of the same, of more suffering and more forever war policy, more attacks toward foreign nation, more intervention, more military intervention, more economic sanction. So in the long run, nation that stand to suffer is actually nation that supported America instead of nation that supported America take down of China. South Korea is also, a lot of South Korea is I would say pro-American, but it's more than that. South Korea is also a subservient state of America. I think even Samsung president out of jail, Biden visit. When Biden came to South Korea and he want to see South Korea, I think microchip production. Lee Jae-yong, which is CEO, I think CEO of Samsung at that time, was put in jail because he bribed one of the prime minister of South Korea. He bribed the South Korean prime minister at that time. So the South Korean prime minister went to jail, and then the Samsung president, Samsung CEO also went to jail. But when Joe Biden visited South Korea in May, Lee Jae-yong was put out of prison just so that he can become tour guide for Biden. That's how much South Korea is subservient to America. promoting European greatness, and finally Europe was mentioned here. I don't know why Europe complains so much about this document, because this document is not exactly anti-European, even though it's definitely not pro-European, since this is pro-America and pro only the top people of America, most, if you want to be specific. Oh, I forgot. A lot of this is just them bad mouthing how Europe has fallen. Even though a lot of this criticism toward Europe is also criticism toward America. Again, every accusation is a confession, even accusation towards their allies. These are such race to bottoms. God damn. Mitigate risks of conflict between Russia and European states. I forgot how much Trump loves Russia, so they cannot talk badly about Russia that much, but they can talk badly about China. Even when mentioning Ukraine war, it is so much tamer compared to when they're talking about China. Even though China never did any military invasion, modern China at least, never did any military invasion towards any nation. The last time I remember is that they tried to invade North Vietnam border and then cancelled it. And then I don't remember anything else. But at least nothing comparable to Russian attack to Ukraine, so Russia being mentioned so tamely compared to China is just crazy work. Okay, they also talk badly about German. Strategically important to the United States precisely because European states cannot reform themselves if they are trapped in political crisis. Every accusation is a confession. Transatlantic trade, this is the IMAC, also the Quad. Genuine democracy, even though the US never really care about democracy. I mentioned Vietnam again. I mentioned this in my video about Vietnam that I finally finished writing. I just need to record and edit it. Part of the reason why with Geneva Accords, the US balkanized Vietnam into two, into North Vietnam and South Vietnam, is because if left alone, Vietnamese people will elect Ho Chi Minh democratically. If left alone with their democracy, with their freedom of choice, Vietnam will choose to vote for Ho Chi Minh to become their president, because at that point in time, Ho Chi Minh has become war hero for Vietnam, more than war hero even. He fought against Japanese colonization, he fought against the monarchy that sold them to France and Japan, he fought against the French attempt at recolonizing Vietnam with 80% of US fund. So, because America doesn't want Vietnam for itself, or at least for its benefit, They want a subservient nation, another subservient nation for them in the form of Vietnam. They balkanized Vietnam into two, with Ho Chi Minh become the leader of the North, and then in the South, America implemented Ngo Dinh Diem at first, which is a crazy dictator that did so many atrocities. He even used Vietnam's, he used French, I forgot the name, the thing to cut head. He used Vietnam tools for killing he used French tools for killing Vietnamese to kill other Vietnamese, including South Korean Vietnamese, South Vietnam, including South Vietnamese, which is, you know, the people from his own nation. And despite being a dictator that was implemented by the US also took him down and then replaced him with another dictator because he's not pro-American enough for them. That is how much America cares about genuine democracy and also freedom of expression. This one. Ngo Dinh Diem was South Vietnam's first president, heavily supported by the US. Seen as an American puppet to his reliance on US. And it's true. It just is not puppet enough, so that America replaced him with another puppet. Also, that's what being a US ally means. You can be replaced. Our goal to help Europe correct its current trajectory. I don't think there's any hope. There's not much hope left for capitalism in its last stage. It's just now flailing around, destroying anything in its path that is against it. Even though we can see the decaying of society with our naked eyes, in our lifetimes, usually need at least multiple lifetimes to see it. But now it's just so clear. It's crazy that they created policy for Europe, even though they're Americans. I can imagine another nation that created policy for other nations, other group of nation. Europe is a group of nation, not just one nation. Strategic ability with Russia again. Russia is mentioned positively, even though China is mentioned negatively. The fuck, man. Opening European markets to US goods and services. Ensuring fair treatment of US workers and businesses. What? Hey, you know, I know your shop is busy, but can you sell our shop? Also, all the profit goes to us. Thank you. And finally, Middle East was mentioned again. I think this document is written in order of importance. So the more at the bottom of the document you are, the less important you are to the US strategy. So Middle East is least important right now because it used to be more important because US depends on Middle East for its oil, but there's even an Arab oil crisis that happened in the 70s, I think. Yeah. OPEC, led by Saudi Arabia, got oil supplies to the US and allies supporting Israel in the Yom Kippur War. And now it's no longer the case because US oil is now more than Middle East, I think. I think US is now the top supplier of oil. Yeah. So USA is at the top of the chart now. That's why Middle East is at the bottom part of the document, because US don't really need them that much compared to the past, compared to when they can do the oil crisis just because they stop oil supply to US. Okay, this is more lies. This is more word salad. Syria is mentioned because I think in the IMAC, Syria is part of Jordan. But I guess supporting Israel means supporting Greater Israel Project, and I think Greater Israel Project has Syria on its agenda. Yeah, Syria is part of the Greater Israel Project. That's why it is mentioned here as a threat. Jordan will definitely regret supporting Israel. Iraq will also become another victim of this. Goddamn. Egypt will also regret supporting Israel. I think Egypt is the one that banned aid, part of the nation that banned aid towards to Gaza, because I think Egypt and Jordan is part of the Abraham Accord. Even though they're part of the Greater Israel Plan. So eventually, Israel will attack them. A lot of this Middle East partner, I think mostly only just Saudi Arabia and UAE. Not sure about all the other small nations like Egypt and Jordan. But Abraham Accord is here. But again, a US ally is very replaceable as long as it benefits US, even if it's just short-term benefit. And then Africa is mentioned at the end because that's how little America think of Africa. And even then it was mentioned negatively here. It's crazy to mention of resurgent Islamist terrorists in Africa because they were there because of America in the first place. So there's no self-awareness at all in this report that America is the one doing all of these harms. Yeah, and that's basically it. That's the US plan to take over the world. It's more or less them doing the same thing that they've always done all this time. So not much change compared to their usual strategy. But I think this is one of the first time where it is listed in a document so openly. I mean, there's still some things that they just not wing, but it's still a much more open proclamation of neo-colonization, imperialism than their usual practices of foreign policy, which is basically hidden in many liberal ideology talking points. So they didn't appear as fascist as usual. But this is the most fascist that US has ever, I think, in at least modern America has released a document to public about what their strategy is. I don't know if it will change things because it's more of the same. So nothing much will change. But I guess it's a sign that the US hegemony, the US centuries, is at its last leg. Their downfall is incoming because in most countries, capitalism is also on its last leg. A lot of its decay, a lot of its rots, we can already see. So there's not much option to try to hide them except with using a lot of cultural war nonsense. And they even attempt that in an official document. They tried so many cultural war nonsense in this document that it is crazy. It is crazy that this is an official document with so many cultural war nonsense. But they're desperate at hiding the failure of capitalism, the failure of imperialism, that they are doing this right now. So hopefully a lot of people will open their eyes towards these atrocities that the United States did. I hope my explanation of a lot of the history makes sense. I don't think there's much else I can add here. Or maybe if you know something that I miss, you can mention it later if you somehow saw this. But yeah, that's about it for my stream today. I know it's not the usual stream where I go through games, but there's not much chance to show a lot of the road of America that in one document like this. That I think it's a missed opportunity if I don't take it to show the history of what they're doing in the world. I hope it makes sense. I hope that yeah, I hope it makes sense. I hope a lot of it can at least easier to understand with a lot of the context and a lot of the documents, a lot of the news that I'm trying to use to fact check the documents. But for now, that's it for me. I also need to raise my voice. 3 hours of talking is a bit much for me. Thank you guys for watching. I'll be back with more crosscode.